This is Gary Jackson from Qlik. We'll be getting started in about 5 minutes. So just, if you're listening to this or watching this, just fast forward to the 5-minute mark. Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Jackson from Qlik, out of Hong Kong, but right now I'm in Tokyo, Japan. Very excited. We're getting to the final throes of the contest, the competition, the Risk Insights Challenge. You'll notice that we are in this little 2 weeks prototype refinement stage for this, which I think is probably the most exciting part. As you know, we're down to 6 teams who have progressed on to the prototype beta stage. And what we're going to be doing for tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night, I'll be walking you through very quick sessions to kind of show you how maybe you can refine your Qlik Sense apps that you built for the competition. You may choose not to follow these, but these are just kind of some great little exercises to understand how Qlik Sense works, kind of give you some more points when it comes to being able to present what you have, and being able just to get a little bit more traction and more visual effect when you actually submit. So let's talk about the submission part. As you notice, on the 13th of April is their deadline for prototype submission for the Risk Insights Challenge. What does that mean? So there was an email that I sent out, I believe it was a week ago, and I'll be sending it out again today, which basically we have an FTP site. So insightsklikenterprise.com. You'll notice that the user is Qlik Insights, and of course the password, which I'll reveal in the email. When you connect using your favorite FTP client of choice, when you log in, you'll notice that when you're able to log into this, you'll see that there's a whole directory here. That's where you would drag and drop your finished application in, your QVF file. Your QVF file will actually be dragged and dropped into this location, and this is where we formally say it's submitted. Now, I think I'm going to put someone on pause right now. Cyril, thanks for joining the call. Are you there? Yeah. So I'm just going to put you on mute. But if you have any questions, my friend, feel free to just raise your hand or put in the chat window, okay? Can you hear me fine? Okay. So basically what this is this is the directory using FTP to be able to go to insightsklikenterprise.com, username Qlik Insights, log in through your FTP. You're going to drag and drop your QVF file and any other things that you have built for your prototype. So if you built a Qlik Sense app, if you built a extension, let's go into my Qlik Sense directories and kind of show that. Build an extension, which I'm going to talk to you about today. You would zip that up into a zip file. And then basically, if you've built, if there's any specific data that you need to bring into this, and if there's any content like images. So for example, if you go into a Qlik Sense application or a data story, you'll notice that sometimes you have to include, if I go into this, you have to include some images. These image files actually live in this content directory with the deep notice that I have my images in here. So I would zip that up. So again, what I'm saying is zip up your QVF file, which is your Sense app. Zip up your extensions that you might have created or used, which is in this directory. Today we're going to be talking about Globe extension and YouTube extension. Then zip up any data that you might have for this. Notice I have an Insights directory here. I would zip that up. And then basically, what you would also do is any other thing, content, any images that you would like to be able to include that includes in the data story. And just simply name it, whatever you call this, simply name it, to the name of the name it into the, so for example, if I wanted to, instead of naming it Insights, I would name it the name of my team. So I call it team name and say content, whatever your zip location is, whatever. And you would just basically drag and drop this into your FTP location. It will FTP it up there so we can have all your content. Okay, so that's the formal way to do it. I'll be sending out a kind of a Word document and a how-to video on how to do this later on, but I just wanted to kind of share that information today. I'm actually going to stop this. Oh, there it went. So there we have my zip file there, but I'm going to delete it, save some space, so we don't have any issues with anything. So that's the actual formal submission process, and of course we're talking about here in the timeline perspective here. Let me just bring it up. So we're in this place. So today what we wanted to talk about today was creating an extension. Creating a Qlik Sense extension is probably, I think, one of the most fun components of Qlik Sense, because I believe the future is creating animations. I've always envisioned creating a comic book of data, really making it a lot of fun, interactive. I don't know if anyone would remember this. Maybe I'm dating myself, but I think that one of my favorite things that I've ever done when I was a kid was we used to have choose your own adventure stories. And these choose your own adventures was you would read through, the book, and then you make a decision about, okay, I'm going to do this and this, and the book would go based on your decisions. And then it kind of went to comic books. And I remember I used to have a World Book encyclopedia that basically had a choose your own adventure from a botany. It was basically trying to predict what kind of plants was going to attach to other plants. It was kind of a learning game. But I love that aspect of it, being able to tell the visual, an interactive visualization that tells a data story. And what extensions allows you to do is it allows you to use web programming languages that are open sourced that tells data stories and visualizations. So for example, some of the ones that I think is pretty powerful, just to kind of bring it up, is D3. D3 is a great website that basically has thousands and thousands of visualization templates. These D3 documents are open source. Anyone can be able to get to them. For example, I'm just going to click on an arbitrary one here. And basically what it allows you to do, it gives you the kind of the code. And actually, you can notice that it's telling a data story. And you can use these visualizations interactively with your data, especially with a Qlik Sense engine, which I think is very nice. And one of my favorites I've always used over and over, and I can't get enough of it, is what I call the Qlik Sense Globe. You'll see here, there's a Chrome experiment here. It's called the WebGL Globe. I'm going to help you today build what we call a Qlik Sense Globe. It may not be the extensions you wanted to be able to use in your project, but hopefully as we walk through how do I go to this Google Chrome visualization, use it, then download the kind of the template for it and be able to bring it into Qlik Sense so I can interact with it with my data that I provided. Also, what's really nice about this too is that, as you'll notice within Qlik Sense, you have this ability to go in and be able to create sheets. So you can actually create a new visualization using an extension. Like, for example, if I say I want to create a new sheet and say new visualization, and I go into that, when I edit, all these extensions show here. There's a radar chart, there's a combo chart, there's pivot table, there's KPIs. These are all D3 or WebGL extensions. And when I say D3, that was the website I was looking at earlier, this D3 website. And there's also these Chrome experiments, which are WebGL. And that's what I wanted to kind of show off today. And what's great about it is if you build one, you can actually embed it into your app and being able to drag and drop it into your extension and drag and drop it into your application for being able to look at the data in a different way. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with you today, how to build some of those. Two of my favorite ones that I use quite a lot is the YouTube extension, which is pretty basic. All you got to do is put a YouTube video ID into it, and then you can actually embed YouTube videos into your apps. I'm going to show you how the extension itself works, and then how you can download it, put it into your own. So I'm going to say I'm going to escape out of that and say nope, don't want to do it. Get rid of that. The other one that I love the most that I've been using for a long time is the Globe. There is a Globe extension that we're going to be using today. It's a 3D WebGL Globe, and we're going to be using that today. I'm going to show you how that works as well. So got two things to cover, and then if we have any questions at the end of this, feel free to ask. I'll be unmuting everybody. And if you're watching this after the fact, no worries. You can always send me an email or your mentors to ask a question. But I would probably steer most of your mentor questions to the Qlik team, because it's more of a technical question and answer session than it is a KPMG business question. So with that being said, let's go into this. So as you know, everyone uses YouTube. Here's a YouTube video. I use this WebGL Globe. Here's what's a great thing about this Globe one. I actually, technically, I have, when I first started with QlikView, my first real exciting implementation was I was challenged after a conference when I was speaking in Dubai to put my money where my mouth is. And basically, I was explaining how we've been wasting years and years of our lives building solutions and applications that we had to code and model and data map. And I said, with Qlik technology, I could build something in about 24 hours. I don't care what it is. I can build an app, a big data app, as I call it, and make it so interactive that people want to play with, they want to see this app and be able to interact with it. I don't need a pie chart. I don't need a bar chart. So after my presentation, Qatar Airways came up to me and said, okay, we want you to show us where we should fly to. And I've done this presentation many a times and talked about this presentation quite a lot, but just for those people in the audience that wants to hear it yet 100th time, I on a lot of Red Bull and a lot of coffee and probably not even taking a bath, me and my team of 4, we basically, the Qatar said, can you build us something within 24 hours? And what we want you to build is something that shows us where we should be flying our planes to that we don't already fly to. And what we did was we took data from Wikipedia for all the airport locations. That's the blue lines. Then I had a buddy of mine who worked at Expedia. He gave me some RSS feeds for all the searches happening in Expedia for travel destinations that correlated to these airport codes. That's these green lines. And then Qatar gave me a very small sample of data that they had. It was a poop out from a SQL Server database, I believe, or a DB2 database. I can't remember what it was. And basically, that's the orange line. So basically, we took Qatar's, and the data was actually where they actually fly to. Qatar actually flies to, and that's the orange lines. And you can tell the number of searches that are happening by the length of them. That shows demand. And of course, it's a very beautiful interactive visualization where you can swivel it around and no big deal. It's really great. So instantly I can see South America is big, West Coast is big, South Africa is big, South Pole is big. And the joke I always make is, look at these airport locations. If you want to get to this airport, you got a long way to go to get to the South Pole. So this is something I've always used. To be honest, when I initially built this, Qlik Sense was not out. I had to use QlikView to mash this data together and then try to force the API into use WebGL on it. Now with Qlik Sense, it's even easier to do this. There's actually a extension that you can download today and be able to import it in and use it for any type of, not just airline information, but you can bring in any information into it. And we're going to kind of talk about how it works and where to get it. So I have Qlik Sense installed, as you already know. I went to a website, .qlik.com. I've talked about it a couple of times on our last. You notice that when I click on this, when you go to branch.qlik.com, what you want to do is browse projects. And when you go into the browse projects side, you'll see there's this extension there called 3D Globe Extension. And you can see, it's actually kind of fresh and brand new. And basically what it does is it gives you a link to a GitHub location that you can actually download the complete extension. It gives you some directions on how to install this extension. So it basically says, okay, what's great about this extension now, one of the problems that I had with my previous report when I did this was it was very difficult to interact from a mobile perspective. So touch was very difficult. But now with the new experiment that we have here, it says it has touch support for mobile, which is great. So how do I get started with this? Well, it's pretty easy. I can do 2 things. I can go, I think that I can actually go to the GitHub location, which it already is linked here. And this is free, you don't have to pay for anything. And basically has all the components that I need in this GitHub. So normally what I do from this GitHub, I'm just going to download the zip file. And of course, the zip file will come down. And basically, you can see this is the zip for the extension. And then what I'm going to do is when I go into the zip file itself, it contains a couple of directories. In this directory, I have a data directory. Now, this data directory, which is kind of nice, this is providing to me the data that they used for this, so you can kind of use example data to make sure it works. And if you bring up this example data, they have country capitals, state capitals, water access, CSV files. If you bring these up, notice there's some common things that the WebGL extension component needs. Latitude and longitude. Very, very important, because you need to be able to plot the points on the world map, the exact points. So this data, so any data that you want to use with this extension would have to have latitude and longitude inside the data source. There's another one here too called country capital. Country capital also has capital latitude and capital longitude. Again, common characteristic. Latitude and longitude is needed for this data to be plotted out. There's another one called water access information. And basically, as you see this, it basically has country codes in here. And so when you look at this country code information, this can also be plotted out using country code using the WebGL extension. That's just a common thing to know, just to let you know that they've given you this data. Do we need it? Technically, no. They've also already pre-given us a Qlik Sense app. So this Qlik Sense app already has this data combined inside of it. Notice it's a QVF file. So in this directory here, I actually have this data, and then I have this QVF file. I can take this QVF file. I'm going to copy it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it into my Qlik Sense apps directory. You'll notice it's going to give me a little thing. Oh, it already exists. That's fine because I've already done it before. So I just dragged it in here. But just to keep with you guys, I'm actually going to go and delete this Globe extension that I have right here. See, I already put it in. I know, that's where we're going to put it a little bit later. Let me get out of Qlik Sense. So I'm going to get and delete this one. I think it's got locked. That's okay. Normally what happens here is, I do want to show you, when you drag and drop this directory in, let me see, download. Go to my Globe extensions directory here. So you'll notice two things here. So when I take the zip file, I take the contents of this zip file and drag it into the same directory within the extensions, and you'll notice it copies all these details in it. Now, notice there's couple of things. I don't need to know anything about QlikView or Qlik Sense or any Qlik technology for that matter to make extensions work. All I need to kind of know is how to be a HTML5 programmer, or if you know, a web developer. And that's where the fun begins, because I personally find myself more acclimated to be a web developer than I am a Qlik Sense programmer. And what it has is this zip file contains JavaScript. It contains a script and a Q extension file, which we'll look at in a moment. It also has a README file, so it basically gives you instructions on how this would work, which is the MD file there. And then it has this cascading style sheet. Cascading style sheets, if you know web development, is where you can change the fonts, you can change the background image and colors and that kind of thing. And then in this, it also has a directory for JavaScript. This is really where the WebGL component comes into play. These are shared JavaScripts to actually take the visualization to the next level. And these are not created by Qlik. These are provided to you by when you go to WebGL to be able to get the actual raw content for the WebGL extension. Okay, so how do we make this work? If you go in here too, you'll see the Globe ext file is basically pointing towards, it just gives basic details around the Qlik extension. This is how Qlik Sense reads the extension when it comes in. It looks for this information. It says author, it says version, it says it's a visualization, so it knows to put it in the visualization tab on the side, gives a description for it, and then it says the name is 3D Globe. So how does this get rendered when you go into Qlik Sense? That we just looked at this a little earlier, but we'll come right back in and check it out. So if we go in here, I'm going to do a search on water. And if I do a edit, there it is, 3D Globe. So that QEXT file is telling me that this is the extension. Oh, look, there's the description we have there. Remember, the description that we were looking at was written there, longitude and latitude. So basically, this QXT file tells it that this is a visual extension that we're going to be using, the type, the version, and allows you to be able to, it basically tells Qlik Sense the type of details you have. Now, there's another thing I'd like to look at real quick. You'll see that there is a Globe JS. Globe.js is a JavaScript file. Now, I don't want to go into JavaScripting with you. That's a whole nother class for a whole nother enablement. But I did want to point out a couple of things here. This is using JavaScript, and basically this JavaScript points to the cascading style sheet that does the fonts and the formatting. It points to the JavaScripts it needs to render information in a visual way. You'll notice there's a detector JavaScript, a 3min, a WebGL Globe, WebGL utils. These are all the scripts that are sitting in this directory, this JavaScript directory, which is very important here. And so I haven't changed anything, just showing that this JavaScript needs to point to those. And what's also really cool too about this is basically it's taking the data, looking for the longitude, latitude, and rendering that information for you into an extension with a connection to Qlik Sense, which I think is pretty cool. Notice that it's, I don't want to go too deep into the extension piece here, but also you can change the width, the height of how you want this to look and that kind of thing. Okay. Now, the other file I wanted to bring up is the cascading style sheet. If you look at this cascading style sheet, and I bring this up, actually I can look at it here. Basically, it's just telling you the colors, how you want it to look when you render it, and also, as we look in here, it should also contain the image files that you would like to use in the back end and that kind of thing. So it's a really, again, I'm just doing pure web development for this. And then the other thing that we have in this thing is images files. Here's some images files that we have. We have a loading GIF, an animated GIF. We have a world JPEG, a couple of world JPEGs that get wrapped around and used for this globe to be able to, when it gets rendered. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken the zip file, I've extracted it into this globe extension master. It pops in and things. I don't really need the data file here, but I have it here just in case. Oh, here's another one. Nice. So there's another big data. Oh, that's pretty large. I'm going to close out of that one. Data file, you can try out the globe extension a little bit later. But this data file is just needed just for you, for examples. You could technically move this directory if you wanted to your Sense data directory, and then I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to call it globe 1 and 2. So I have my globe directory with all my information there too. Okay, and this PNG file is basically content. So if I wanted to be able to use this as my my image file, I'd go into the content, I'd go into default, I'd just plop it in there, this globe file. Now when I go into Qlik Sense, and then I want to do an edit my Sense application, I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to look for globe. Hopefully it'll be in here. Let's see. See. There it is. Bam. So I'm going to use this image as my default image from my app, so I can know it's just a screenshot. You can use whatever you want. Heck, I could even do this if I wanted to. I can actually even use Globe again for the app, the sheet itself. So you notice that there is an image file for the sheet that you're working on as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, get rid of my information there, and then I'm going to say done. Now, what this is basically doing is you'll notice that I'm bringing data in. Let's look at the data that I'm using here. The data that I'm using here, if we look at it, we've got state capital CSV file. It's being brought in from this. It's already been preloaded. But if I wanted to bring it in, I can actually do an edit. I can say Qlik Sense. Say I want to go sources. Let's go back cancel. So what I would like to do is change this. And what I'm going to do is, let me do this. I want to get in trouble. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to point this to my Qlik Sense directory. Okay, so now what I want to do is I wanted to point my data to my Qlik Sense directory. So what I'm going to do is Qlik Sense data globe. See what my directory is, just so I can make sure I'm doing it correctly here. Globe. And then there we go. Go back in. And say save. So, so I just changed my data folder here. I have a state capital CSV file. I have a water access file. I have a country capitals file. And then what I also want to do too is I want to bring that big data information out. So I'm going to do a cut, bring that in, post it there. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring that file in. See, it's got the ID. Pretty good. I'm going to insert the script. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to create this as Geo information. Save that. Okay. All right. So what I've just done is I've taken the extension, I've taken the components, the content, I've taken the data. I've actually done this in. So what I'm going to do now is technically what I could do is I could load the data, which I'm going to load that. It's fetching information. Cool. Just loaded the data in. Now what I want to do is I want to go back to my app. And you'll notice this when I go into the app itself. It has this, I'm going to look at my first sheet here. The first sheet basically has data I just loaded in, but notice it's not rendering my my globe. And also notice that it only works inside a WebGL capable browser. So because this is a portal, Qlik Sense is basically a desktop viewer using a kind of a watered down browser. What we're going to need to do though is Qlik Sense does use a web application skin to be able to render things. So what I can do is this. I can actually go into this, go localhost 4848, and then do hub my work. And bam, there I am. So I'm back in the same, so I'm either using Qlik Sense Desktop, or I'm also using through my web browser, and there's my app, because remember I put that content image in there. And now when I go into the sheet itself, boom, you can see that it renders. And right away you can see, you can see how the data is interacting with this information, which is basically just pinpointing the city. The city has longitude, latitude, then it uses the WebGL visualization that we've just put in here to basically plot out that longitude, latitude, and location. I was going to see Austin. Yeah, just making sure it's correct. Most of these are American cities. You can also see in the app itself that we just kind of plopped in here. You can see here's lots of other kinds of directories. This is global water access, population with improved water access. So basically I can choose Bahrain, and this is actually a great application for Americans because we're mostly geographically at a disadvantage. So maybe this is a way you can use it. I'm just kidding with my American friends, but not really kidding. So anyway, so what we were able to do is we downloaded a Qlik Sense extension from the branch website. We loaded some data in. We're able to view it through the web portal version of Qlik Sense Desktop and being able to look at it. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this one. I want to do one more, which is YouTube. YouTube is a common, of course, a common thing that I like to use a lot to embed in my apps. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to find a extension for YouTube, and let's go into the branch.qlik.com, go to browse projects, and let's see if we can find YouTube. So if I look at YouTube really quickly, if it comes up, I have a YouTube player, I have a color, yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one. Notice that it has the same thing, GitHub Location, working down it. It even has instructions on how to do this. I'm actually going to bring this image file down. Whoops, sorry, go back. So I'm going to go down to the extension and notice that it has YouTube directory. I'm going to download the zip file. The zip file has the same kind of contents that the other one did. You'll notice that it has a QEXT file and a JavaScript, and then it has a PNG file that we can use for imaging and stuff. Now, what's great about this is if you look at this QEXT file, it says, same thing. What it is, the description, the icon, has a preview, and that's what this YouTube PNG file is, and then it basically has the author. So you can create your own type of extension if you want to. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take this content that's here, and then we're going to go back into Qlik Sense. Whoops, close this. Go back into Qlik Sense. Go into the extensions directory. You'll notice I already have it here. It's called YouTube, and then I can just paste in that directory YouTube these 3 files which already exist. Actually, I'll paste them and see if I can copy and replace over it. Great. Okay. So I've just copied over the files here. Now what I would like to do is, if I wanted to be able to create some kind of app around this, I can. But before we do that, I wanted to show you what the YouTube JavaScript does. So the YouTube JavaScript that we talked about before, basically we can actually put in here a default video that always gets played when you install the extension. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this this URL into it. So this is basically the default YouTube video that will always be played. I'm going to save this into the YouTube. Okay, great. Yep. And then you can also see that it has all the basic YouTube functionality. And it's just passing in a YouTube embed, and it's using an iframe. Don't want to go too much into the other pieces into this, but I just wanted to kind of show that this is just doing some very basic stuff. So now when we go back into if I want to say done, and then I want to create a new app, and I want to call this my YouTube app, and then I go open app, and then what I want to do in here is I basically want to do I want to add YouTube. Let's go back into my YouTube directory, copy this. Remember, I got to copy my PNG file into my Qlik Sense content directory, default, paste YouTube in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out, do another search, go for, see if we can find YouTube in here. Qlik Sense, YouTube, should be in here somewhere at the top. Sorry, I'm totally blind. Be very glad that I'll find it in a minute. Just leave that for right now. I'll find it in a second. Well, now, what I could do if I wanted to is I can actually just can save this. Of course, I need to load data into this piece. So I'm just going to load some real basic data that I have on my desktop, just to kind of, get this thing started. I'm going to load some of my friends' data, some of my coworkers' information, and then drag and drop it in, and then say load data, and edit the sheet. And then what I'm going to do is, when you go in here, you can see all the extensions, and voila, there's our YouTube thing. And if I hover over it, it brings up that YouTube PNG file that we had before, and I can drag it in here. It should already have automatically rendered. Yep. See, remember, there's that video I talked about. And what's great about this is, once I bring this video in, this is a video that basically Michael talks about how to build Qlik Sense Extensions, which I think is pretty powerful. So anyway, so what we did there was we basically added 2 extensions into Qlik Sense. I kind of showed you the bare bones work of how they work. Now here's something you can also do if you really want to get really deep into it. There is a templates directory here. You can say there's a basic template, list box template, table template, and the basic template basically shows you how to do this. So there's a basic JavaScript file, a QTX file, ext file, and of course, if you wanted to bring this in, whoops, I don't want to run it, I want to edit it. And it just gives you some real basic functionality. So you can create your own, you can download your own and be able to add it. But I also want to show you one more thing that I think is kind of a gimmick, but as you're building these extensions and you're building these apps, what if you don't want them to last for very long? What if you just want these apps and these extensions that you're building to last for a certain amount of time, then shut off? Just from a, maybe you just want to give it like a proof of concept to give them 90 days to try out the app and that kind of thing. And because I think that's very powerful. So one of the things I was going to show you is, let's say with this YouTube app, I don't want to use it for very long. So what I was going to do is, first of all, I got to find my YouTube ad. There it is. What I want to do is, I'm actually going to, this is kind of a gimmick, but it seems to work pretty well. What I want to do is, I want to create a web file extension. And what I'm going to do for this web file is, let me see if is there any link? No. I'm going to create on my website, Enter Life Online licenses. I'm going to call this KPMG yes text. And I'm going to say on and off switch. Now, what am I doing here? I'm actually creating a location, a URL location, that when I bring the app in and I load data, if this location does not exist or this file does not exist, the application will fail to load the data, give you an error. And then, and if you want them to, and you can actually remove this file. It's a very basic on and off switch for your application. Can they still just load the QVF file without loading fresh data? They can, yes. But they have to make sure that this file is on before they can load fresh data. Or technically, they could just delete the connector. But for those new business users who don't know, you just want to get, this is a great way just to kind of put kind of a time delayed lock on your applications. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to create a file here called yes.txt and licenses KPMG yes.txt. So how do I do this? I'm going to go to Enter Life Online. I'm going to go into my Enter Life Online directory, and then I'm going to go into, should have a licenses directory, I do. And then I'm going to create a new directory called KPMG. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a new file called yes.txt. There's nothing in it, it's just a pointer, not a big deal. But now when I go back in here and I say on and off switch, I'm going to do a save. Okay, let's see if I put this correctly. Did I go to the right directory? Yes. KPMG licenses. Do Life Online. I'm going to call it KPMG licenses. This could not be found. Let's be typing something incorrectly. On and off, URL, enter. There we go. I was just mistyping it. And what this is just basically a really quick little on and off switch. I'm going to call this the on and off switch. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to bring in my file here and just say insert script. Notice there's nothing there. And then I have this. Now what happens is, what's great about it is, when I load my data, boom, works no problem, right? So let's do this. Let's go there, in the KPMG directory, delete this file. Now, let's go back and run this thing again. So we go here, and load data. Oh. Just find this file again. Okay. Oh, I know why. Because it's actually not loading anything in here. So there's nothing in the file. But if I put some unique character that would equal, could be able to do that. But it's a really good little check if you want to just kind of put a lock on a application in a very limited way. Just some ideas for you. Or if you want to be able to add data to your app. Let's say you don't want to add data or upload the data to the FTP location that you want to do. You can actually put this on your website, put all your feeds there, and then you can just deploy the QDF file that has all these connectors going to your website with an on and off switch so they can use it for a certain amount of time. So that's kind of a way that you can kind of go through this. Those were kind of really the only applications and things that I wanted to show today. And I wanted to just kind of open it up if there's any questions or if anybody has any suggestions. So I'm going to basically unmute everyone, all the participants, find out if there's any questions that anyone has. And yeah, whoops, go ahead. Any questions? Is there anybody that has any questions for this? Oh, let me see, chat. Okay, great. Thanks, Cyril. First of all, Cyril, I'm sorry you had to stay so late on a Tuesday night. So I appreciate you being here. I think everyone else is going to review afterwards. Yeah, thanks. Great question though. Cyril, you talk about JSON files. JSON files. If you can get some JSON files, let me show you something I've been able to do with Qlik before. I've been able to load JSON files in here. So I think I have some. I'll give an example of that a little bit later. I'll send you a link for that, for the JSON files, because I don't think I have any on my laptop, but great question there. Okay, well that's all I had for tonight. I don't want to keep anyone any longer than I have to. If you have any other questions for anything, just send me an email. And tomorrow we'll be talking about how to use R with predictive analytics with Qlik, and basically how to create an analytical base table and load it into Qlik for visualization. So I appreciate it. That's all we got. I'll go ahead and stop this and email me if you have any other questions. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say I forgot to bring up, which is very important. I don't know why I didn't bring this up earlier. For all those people who didn't participate earlier, I built a website called Prototype, which we talked about last time. But you'll see that the link for the video of this Google Hangout will be updated to this website. So insightsqlikenterprise.com, Prototype is the location that I'll be pushing the video. So if you want to review this a little bit later. Okay, thanks everybody, and have a good night.